Welcome back, WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and WNST.net. Happy holidays, Thanksgiving, leftovers, stuffing, mashed potatoes and gravy, maybe a little bit of cranberry, as well as some pumpkin pie and plenty of football on tap for the weekend. And, of course, the Ravens and the San Francisco 49ers. But here in the short week, it is also basketball season. And I learned this when my dear friend Joe Dupriest, formerly of the Washington Capitals, was at the Duke basketball game with his children. Saw it on the timeline on Tuesday night. He escaped before Duke didn't escape. Robert Canady is here of Buckets and Birds and our friend at Compass Point. Robert, I'm wearing my Baltimore Positive hat today instead of my Compass Point hat. Apologies for that. Strategic Factory hooked me up with some new hats around here. But I tell you what, any holiday, I am thankful for a lot of things on Thanksgiving. But when Duke can lose to Stephen F. Austin, that creates a nice Thanksgiving in the land of pleasant living, even if we're not in the ACC anymore, right?
Exactly. I think the only thing that could have made that win better is if it happened in March in the first or second round of the tournament. Which Stephen F.A. Austin, has they had a good tournament run a couple of years ago. So I mean, they're not a big name that most people will know, but it was certainly while it was a surprise, the fact that they stood up and beat Duke. I mean, at home though. I mean, come on, what had they won? 156 non-conference or something like that in a row at home. So yeah, it was a huge shocker. And probably sent a lot of smiles across the anti-Duke Duke land.
Hey, absolutely. Meanwhile, the real Godzilla, Michigan State, continues to move on. Kansas moves on. Would it mean anything if Maryland were the number one team in the country? I mean, I guess that's just sort of the visions of sugar plums here, as the Ravens are now the number one team in the world according to everyone's power ranking, right? And we'll talk about Lamar and your Redskins and whatnot before it's all over with here on a holiday weekend. But for the Terps, I've never put any credence in the number one thing, whether it's Duke or Kentucky, Kansas, whoever it is. I mean, I remember back in the day, it was always DePaul or Bradley, right, back a million years ago. Right. Gonzaga, whatever. As a Maryland fan, you always sort of wanted to be number one or whatever, but I don't know that I'd want them to be perceived as such and have to carry that around for 6 weeks until they inevitably lose on some cold night at Northwestern or something, right?
Exactly. And it's funny, you talk to different coaches and you get different opinions on that. And a lot of it depends upon the makeup of their team. If they've got a relatively young team or team that hasn't been, in that spot before, the coaches are hesitant because they're not sure, how they'll react to it. If they're, if you start reading the headlines and seeing themselves on the head of ESPN highlights.
Hey, we're all looking at that with Lamar right now, right? I mean, literally, right? Like, Lamar has become Michael Jordan. We're all watching to say, how's he going to handle this? So far, so good.
Yeah, I mean, he's must-watch TV right now. I mean, whether you're tuning in to watch the Ravens or not, you're definitely going to tune in to watch Lamar, whether you have any interest in that game or not, and see what he does. I mean, I said something the other night to a friend who said he was glad to see the Ravens winning such a big margin at halftime, so he'd go to bed. I said, are you kidding? You didn't know, you weren't afraid of what you might miss from him in the third quarter, So just any time the ball snapped, he's capable of doing something special.
Man, it's created like a different kind of holiday around here for everything. I'm sure down at the golf course at Compass Point, it's like that for you as well. I think it even for those of us who read the sports page at WNST.net, it's put sports out on the tongue in a way that it's not for Redskins fans right now, but it is for Nationals fans, and it's not for Orioles fans because there is no winter carnival. It's winning is what it's all about. We always hear that. And as I get into my second century here, the winning part of it, look at the Maryland football program versus the basketball program. But this is what brings me to the basketball program. I mean, they're winning, and they don't have enough people to unfurl their flag at these games early in the year. The kids don't even want to walk down the street on campus on decent nights to fill up the place. Where's Maryland basketball this year in regard to where the Redskins' demise, where the football program's demise, where the Orioles can't sell tickets, where the Ravens have the best team on earth and had 10,000 people not show up in their seats last week? So, these empty buildings, and I guess for Maryland, this better be the year for Maryland to grow the program, right? Like, if you're not growing the program when you're the number 6 team in the country, and you and I are talking about maybe them being a number 1 team in the country if they string together a bunch of wins and somebody, makes Michigan State burp in the next 3 weeks, and I don't know where the value of that would be, but it would be nice to say to your fans, we're number one in the country this week. Come to the game, buy a ticket.
Yeah, I think that would definitely add a different level of excitement to it. We've touched on this is kind of between now and mid to late January. You've got students on break, at varying times at the different schools, and a lot of them, you're not going to get maybe the students to walk across campus. And I've seen that walk from some of the apartments and dorms at College Park to Canady Center, and on a cold December night or whatever, it's you may not make that walk to go see them play Oakland or whatever. But by the time it gets into conference season, and they start playing the likes of Indiana and Ohio State, Michigan State. They'll be there, assuming they keep winning like they have been. And
well, they're going to be a top 25 team all year, right? I mean, unless they lose 3 games in a week, they're going to wind up, spending the season with digits in front of their name, right? Like, and if they don't, oh my, right? I mean, if somehow they're not in the top 25 on February 18th, I mean, it will have meant something really catastrophic has happened.
Yeah, then we'll be having whole different conversations, about the status of things there.
But I guess that's what I'm talking about. Like, I'm on the phone with my man Bill Cole this morning, and he's booking flights to Miami for the Ravens, right? Like, so now the expectation isn't like just winning the division or just getting a bye or just winning a home game or just getting on the bus and going up to New England or whatever it'll be. Like, it's now like, They've got to win the Super Bowl in the minds of people because they're beating the Rams 45-6. And I think for the Terps fans, part of this also is, well, they better be playing in March and they better be playing the second weekend. Yep. And dude, it's Thanksgiving, right? It's what we're talking about what's going to be happening in April, because I guess we're not going to be talking about a Redskins parade or an Oriole opening day or, you know what I mean, for the bad things that are going on. But if you're into the program and you're into Maryland, I mean, it's like if you're a Ravens fan and you're not wearing purple right now, what are you doing? This is as good as it gets if you're a Maryland fan.
Right, it does, and and it's odd. I've spoken to more than one person who, and I shake my head over this. It just shows the different. Not everyone's a basketball nerd like I am and everything, but a few of them told me they don't start paying attention until the 1st of March for college basketball. That they say everyone gets in, which isn't quite true, but it's pretty. You've got 4 out of 4 of the 8 other teams. When those team 68 is announced, they'll argue otherwise. That not everyone gets in, but a lot of especially teams that have sustained success like Maryland has had over the last several years. You touched on it. Everyone expects them to be there in March, and they'll tune into the ACC tournament. Look at me, there we go. The Big Ten tournament, to see how they do. But they still won't be watching out as intently until, the big dance, a week later. That's when it all counts nowadays. And, teams that are on the bubbles, or the teams that are fighting for the one-bid conferences like the Towson's going up against Charleston and Northeastern and everything to see who comes out of there. There may be a little bit more in tune to the regular season to see what happens in the conference there. But the teams like the Maryland that you just expect to be there, at the end of the season, there's probably a little bit more likelihood to tune out some of these early season games, and except for the big ticket games, conference games that'll come to Canady, like we talked about, the Michigan States and such. So I think it's changed a little bit. The good news is they are, during the winter, once football's over, they're the main game in town down there. And, there's, Georgetown's having a nice little revival, and we'll see what they do. But, George Washington's in the basement, and, Mason's out there in, Fairfax. So they are basically the epicenter of D.C. and then the surrounding areas at that time of year. So, it would be great if they got to number one. A few things need to happen above them to see. But I think this team, it would be a good thing for this team if that were to happen. I think they would like to see that they could handle it well.
Well, and it's obviously a lot more important to be number one, in April when it's all over with. But, all right, so off the Maryland tree here, and we'll get back to the Terps. Robert Canady joining us here, Buckets and Birds at Compass Point Golf. You go down there and hit around on any day when it's not wet or completely awful, and I guess global warming has at least made the course a little bit better. I flew across a lot of golf courses out in Southern California last week. I looked down, I'm like, what golf course is that? What golf course is that? I wonder if Bob Hope played there. Coppin State, wow, right? Winning some basketball games. So I want to give a shout out to Juan Dixon, Ruff, and all our friends over there. We are the voice of Coppin State here and the flagship, and we put the games on. But 2 games in a week, beat Cornell at home, go to James Madison, win. now they're spending a holiday weekend out in Missoula, Montana, for crying
That'll
out
be a
loud.
wake-up call for them, yeah.
Yeah. So,
Weather-wise.
we wonder when these programs that can't find a way to get up and crawl start to walk, and before they run in their own conferences. This is a big story for Coppin and for Juan. They've obviously turned some sort of corner here.
They have, and we've. When's the last time you've talked about Coppin having a 2-game winning streak in the non-conference season? Especially with all the stack of road games they play now. Granted, Cornell was at home and everything, and but to go into James Madison and get a win anytime is a great win. That's something Towson hasn't been able to do regularly. So we don't know yet how good James Madison is going to be this year. That'll remain to be seen. But you go into a conference that's ranked ahead of you on the road. When you've historically have struggled. Those are 2 really good wins there, and we've talked about it. We've talked about how Juan. Just talking to him at Media Day, he really had the sense that this year was going to be a little different, and that he really liked where this team was and what he was seeing out of them. And you have to give them credit there. The wins they've had, in addition to those 2, they beat the Loyola Chicago earlier. So these are not the Sisters of Mercy they're beating up on. So they're not Dukes and everything. But for Coppin, those are 3 good wins in the non-conference, and they've got a couple of good ones still coming up. They have Davidson. They have the UMBC game, crosstown game. Looks really interesting now in about 3 weeks. UMBC's had their struggles this year with injuries and everything.
That game's the 15th, by the way, and that game's down at UMBC.
Right, exactly. So that'll be a chance for them to, go in there, and depending on how UMBC's health is at that point, if they get a win in that one, for a big local rivalry, that's something they haven't yet been able to do regularly, is beat these local teams. Towson and UMBC have been doing that for the most part. So if Coppin were to get a win like that, that would be another huge step in the right direction.
He is Robert Canady, Buckets and Birds. You can find him out on Twitter down at Compass Point, not Coppin State. We're at Coppin State. He's at Compass Point. Anything you want to say about the turkey shoot or golf or anything this weekend? I know Ravens fans are all gathered around for 1 o'clock. We're all eating leftovers. We're all scattered. We're all shopping online and other places. But the course is open this weekend, and this is a weekend where people get a couple extra days. And if you do hit the ball, Compass Point's open for business.
Yeah, the turkey shoot is, it's almost filled up. We had a phenomenal response to it so far. So I think we have almost 80-some players. And, looking at the extended forecast, Friday is not supposed to be too bad, but it's a lot better than Saturday and Sunday are going to be weather-wise. So it might be the last chance to get out there and play in some decent, halfway decent golf weather. So, yeah, you can still go to the website, compasspointgolf.com, and sign up for that as a late entry if you'd like to, and get out there, play some golf, and have some fun afterwards. So.
All right, well, back onto the hardwoods here. You talk about trips and stuff like that. Morgan State played a triple overtime game earlier this week against Evansville and the Mighty Aces before dropping out. You look down at the score, 115 to 112. You're like, how did that happen? They also have a tough one here. They play Ohio State. They also play Towson next week. We haven't talked much about Towson. I know there's been a little scuffle there as well.
Yeah, I saw the score of that Morgan State game come across while I was watching something else, and it definitely got my attention. Thinking that must have been a fun game to watch and everything. And that went into triple overtime with a score like that. So again, we've talked about, I think, a little bit last week, and how Kevin Broders is kind of changing the attitude there and everything. And they've had some really close games even in some of their losses. So. It'll be interesting to see. They'll go into Ohio State, get paid nicely for probably providing Ohio State with a win. But Towson is right there next week. That'll be I believe that's at Morgan State.
At Morgan on the 4th, correct?
So
yes.
That'll be a good opportunity for them to get a crosstown win.
And they host UMBC on the 10th. UMBC's got a big week the 10th, right? We lament the battle of the Beltway not being there, but this is the next couple of weeks. You look down, and there is a whole lot of cross town and people getting on buses and not planes, right?
Yeah, and we do like to see that this time of year and everything. So it's UMBC is a question mark right now. We can talk about them more in a minute, but back to Morgan State Towson. Towson had the tournament. They were in one of these holiday tournaments earlier over the last week down in Charleston, and they got waxed by Xavier, number 18 team in the country, and that wasn't surprising. Then they absolutely choked one away against a very decent Buffalo team. They were up 7 with a minute and a half to go, and just
man, that's tough. I mean, you're up 7 with 90 seconds and you lose by 3 points. I mean, that makes for a rough ride home, right?
Yeah, fortunately they got to come back and they played one more the next day and they beat St. Joe's, the Atlantic 10, which, on paper is a nice win. Now St. Joe's isn't what they were a few years back, with Martinelli and all that gone. But, that was still a good way to come back and beat an Atlantic 10 team. That made the bus ride back a little bit better. So we'll see, still a lot to remain. We've seen Towson. I've watched all those games on TV. It was good national exposure for them. That tournament was on ESPN2, and playing Xavier and everything and getting some national broadcasters. So I know Pat was thrilled with the exposure they got there. Not so much thrilled with the Buffalo game, but they look like they're going to be okay. Early in the year I said I didn't know. They had a lot of kind of new some transfer pieces, some freshmen that are getting some playing time, and I think they're going to be okay in the CAA. Maybe they were picked 6th in the preseason, and wouldn't surprise me if they actually surpass that by a spot or two.
Robert Canady is our guest. He is Buckets and Birds. He's down at Compass Point and watching basketball all throughout the land here as we talk about the Maryland Terrapins and Coppin State and UMBC. Let's get back onto the Terps and the undefeateds. Obviously, Temple, Notre Dame. Then we get into Illinois and Penn State. The pace picks up here from Fairfield and Oakland, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. They'll be spending the Thanksgiving holiday down in Orlando at that tournament, and like you mentioned, Temple already, and on the other side of that bracket, which is unknown yet, there's a couple of good teams. I think Davidson and USC are in there as well. So that'll be fun to watch over the Thanksgiving weekend to see how they do there, and then they come back and they go right into it with Notre Dame and Illinois. So we'll that rise up in the rankings if they come out of those 5 games 5-0. I definitely expect to see them in the top 3. Depending upon what happens above them, I could definitely see them moving up at least into the top 3.
But from a tactical standpoint, to be unloading the bench and the brothers and all the other stuff that was going on against Oakland and Holy Cross, there's not a whole lot of ramp up on that. We're going to see what he feels his 7 or 8 or 9 and what kind of rotation, without foul trouble or without health issues or anything like that. We're going to see where this is because they have deep depth. There's no doubt about. I mean, we know who the 5 are. I'm just not sure who's 7, 8, and 9, and that's going to be pretty important because these guys aren't going to play 40 minutes a night in the Big Ten.
No, that's true. Once you get down into that, that conference schedule where it starts beating you up with the travel and everything. That's where you need to know. Now, I mean, like I said, they've all the bench and the freshmen have been getting some playing time, in these games and everything. And he's gotten some, but that's where you're going to look for Ayala and Dante Scott and Samuel Smith, Sorrell Smith. I'm sorry, to come off the bench. You think those are going to be 3 of your key guys coming off, and you'd like to see one of the other freshmen step up and be able to contribute and give good key minutes because you're going to need at least an 8-man rotation, and that's usually what Turgeon plays is 8, sometimes up to 9. But you will need that come the conference season. I think we'll get to see a lot of that over the next 5 games to kind of see what that rotation is going to end up looking like.
How's your golf rotation? You doing all right? I mean, you got more time on your hands as a Redskin fan than we do right now. I mean, we're all Lamar'd up here. I mean, the Redskin fans would have extra time to golf at this point, right? Like, you make other use of your weekends at this point.
Well, yeah, I'm still a little restricted from physically from some surgery I had a week or so ago, so can't actually swing it for another 4 or 5 weeks. But it'll give me a chance to work on my putting game, if nothing else, over the next 4 weeks, and get it, keep that putting stroke in prime shape over the winter. So that'll be my main goal coming up.
Work on some leftovers this weekend. Eat some pumpkin pie. Enjoy the holiday. Have some cranberry. Watch some football. We'll get together again next week. We're really getting into the good time now, right? Like next couple weeks, we're going to be mixing it up here with a lot of local teams. And I hope to see you out at UMBC, Coppin, Towson, wherever you are. I'll be getting out to some games next couple weeks, Rob.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure we'll run into each other somewhere along the line. But yeah, you're right. We'll have some good crosstown games to talk about.
Well, you know what I just figured out, and we can make this a date. Coppin plays UMBC on Sunday the 15th. I'm sure the Redskins are playing that day, but the Ravens aren't. The Ravens play on Thursday night that week, and that's a 1:30 Sunday game down at UMBC, and Coppin's there, and the game will be on WNST. So I think I'm going to go down and check that one out that day. Take a little respite from the National Football League for a moment and support the local basketball programs. How about that?
Yeah. No, yeah, I'm sure I'll be at that one as well. Like I said, there's nothing football-wise that day that's going to keep me away from it. So,
well, I promise you'll see me there. How about that?
That sounds good. We'll
All right.
look forward to it.
Robert Canady, we'll see him down at Compass Point. He's in Pasadena. They have 36 holes of golf. He's not on the links right now, but he's off the links and can make you a date for a spring outing. If you got a corporate outing, if you just want to go hit the ball, get on down to Pasadena to see Robert, and he's also happy to sell you a cheeseburger and a delicious ice-cold beer there right off the putting greens. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. I was in L.A. I'm over the river and through the woods and eating turkey and pumpkin pie and all that good stuff with you. The Moeller family and I will be getting together and doing some Baltimore Positive. You see the new hats. Big thanks to Strategic Factory. I want to give them some love as well for providing the new gear that you're seeing all over the internet. And we're going to be with Police Commissioner Harrison on Thursday the 12th at Fadley's. That's going to be at high noon on Thursday the 12th of December. My wife and I are doing a little getaway next week after Thanksgiving, so hang in there. We got plenty of football, plenty of great conversations ahead, plenty of Baltimore Positive, and plenty of Thanksgiving memories ahead. We are WNST.net, AM 1570. We never stop talking Lamar Jackson, but we mix in a little college basketball and golf too.